Jack was not a hero in the usual sense. He had grown up on a quiet farm on Earth, learning to work hard, stay calm, and face challenges without fear. He had never imagined that one day he would stand on a distant planet in front of beings unlike anything he had ever seen, with the fate of relations between humans and aliens depending on his courage. Yet here he was, walking through the massive gates of the Zarathian palace, his heart steady but his mind alert. The palace was unlike anything on Earth. Towers of silver and crystal rose high into the sky, catching the faint light of 3 suns that bathed the planet in soft shades of gold and violet. The air smelled faintly of ozone, and a quiet hum resonated through the walls, a sound that seemed alive, as if the building itself was aware of his presence. Jack's boots made soft clicks on the polished floor as he moved forward, carrying only the essentials, a small communication device, a pack with water and supplies, and his own unshakable will. Inside the main hall, chaos reigned among the Zarathian guards. They were tall, lithe, and covered in smooth, iridescent skin. Their eyes glowed softly in the dim light, and their movements were precise, almost elegant. Yet despite all their training, fear was written on their faces. No human had ever entered their queen's chamber so directly, and none had dared approach without weapons or hesitation. "Stop him!" one of the guards hissed, but it was too late. Jack was already past the first line of defense, his posture firm and his eyes forward. He did not stumble, falter, or glance nervously. Each step he took seemed to challenge the centuries of protocol and fear that had controlled the palace for generations. From her elevated throne, the alien queen observed. She was a sight of awe and terror combined. Her skin shimmered like molten silver, her hair flowed like liquid crystal, and her eyes, 6 in total, focused sharply on Jack. She had ruled Zorath for over 2 decades, and she had faced many intruders, diplomats, and challengers. But this human, he was different. He did not rush in recklessly, he did not beg, and he did not show fear. He simply walked, calm and determined. Jack felt the weight of every gaze in the hall, yet he did not let it shake him. He had been trained to remain steady under pressure, but this was unlike any training. The energy in the hall was almost tangible, thick with the tension of centuries of expectation. He knew one wrong move could trigger a confrontation he was not prepared for. Still, he walked forward, step by step, until he was directly in front of the throne. The queen's voice rang out, smooth and melodic, yet carrying an unmistakable edge of authority. "Why have you come here, human?" she asked. Each word was deliberate, echoing through the hall. The guards held their breath, waiting for Jack to falter, to make a mistake that would cost him dearly. Jack took a deep breath. "I have come to speak," he said clearly. "I come in peace. My people wish to understand yours. We mean no harm." His voice did not tremble. It carried sincerity, a quality the queen could sense immediately. She was used to threats, bribes, and deception. This human offered none of those. The guards exchanged nervous glances. They had been trained for centuries to respond to threats, to control intruders, to protect the queen at all costs. Yet no protocol covered a human who stood firm, alone, and unarmed, yet fearless. One guard whispered, He does not fear us." Jack's calm presence seemed to shift the energy in the hall. The usual hum of movement, the soft clatter of armor, the whispers of strategy, all of it faded into silence. For a moment it was just him and the queen. She leaned forward slightly, her multiple eyes studying him carefully. He met each gaze with steady focus. Then, a subtle test began. The queen did not speak for long, but allowed illusions to ripple across the hall. Shadows moved unnaturally, and the walls seemed to bend slightly. The air grew thick, making it harder to breathe. Jack felt the instinctive urge to step back, to retreat, but he reminded himself why he was here. Courage was not the absence of fear. It was the choice to face it. The guards around the edges began to shuffle nervously. Some had already turned away, realizing that their training meant little against this human's resolve. One by one, a few slipped out of the hall entirely, seeking safety in corridors and side chambers. They were not defeated by weapons or strategy. They were defeated by the calm strength of a single human who refused to yield. Jack did not notice the guards leaving. He focused entirely on the Queen. "I do not know all of your ways," he said softly, "but I know this. Peace is stronger than fear. Understanding is stronger than hatred. I came because we wish to learn, not to destroy." The Queen's interest deepened. She had expected defiance, violence, or begging. Instead, she encountered honesty and courage. She observed him silently for several long moments, weighing his words against the centuries of experience that told her humans were unpredictable. Finally, she spoke again. "You have courage," she said, her voice softer now. "Few outsiders possess it. Tell me, why should I trust one human over the history of threats we have faced?" Jack smiled faintly. "Trust is built, not demanded," he replied. "I do not expect you to believe me immediately. I only ask for a chance to show my intentions through actions, not words alone." The Queen leaned back slightly, considering. The hall was silent. The few remaining guards who had stayed at the edges watched with a mixture of awe and disbelief. They had never seen such resolve. A single human standing firm in the presence of the alien Queen had changed the atmosphere of the entire palace. Jack remained calm, but inside, he felt the weight of every second. One misstep, one wrong tone, could still provoke hostility. Yet his confidence was growing. He had faced fear, uncertainty, and danger all his life on Earth, and he had learned that staying steady and truthful could often achieve more than force. The Queen's eyes narrowed slightly, then relaxed. She had seen many challenges in her life, yet none like this. This human was not like the others. He did not seek power. He did not seek conquest. He simply stood, unbroken and determined, ready to face whatever test she might present next. And in that moment, the guard's departure no longer mattered. It was Jack and the Queen, alone in the great hall, two beings from different worlds standing at the brink of understanding. For the first time in her long reign, the alien Queen considered that perhaps courage and honesty, even from an outsider, could be a force greater than fear and control. Part 1 ended not with conflict, but with a quiet, almost invisible shift in the palace, a recognition that one human could stand firm against the expectations, fears, and centuries of power surrounding the throne. The stage was set for the trials to come, and Jack was ready to face them, step by step, with courage in his heart and determination in his eyes. The alien Queen's throne room remained still, a quiet tension hanging in the air. Jack had proven something extraordinary. A human could stand firm, calm, and unafraid before the ruler of Zorath. Yet the Queen was not yet convinced. She needed to test his courage in a way no words could explain. "Step forward," the Queen commanded, her voice resonating like a soft vibration through the palace walls. "You have entered my chamber with honesty. Now you must prove that courage is not just in words but in action." Jack nodded. He did not fully understand the test, but he trusted that his training, his discipline, and his calm would guide him. He had faced danger on Earth before, storms that could sweep away entire villages, fires that threatened homes, and moments when fear whispered to turn away. But he had never turned back. He would not start now. The Queen waved her hand and the hall transformed. Shadows swirled across the floor like living smoke. The walls seemed to shift, bending slightly as though the palace itself were breathing. Jack's heart beat steadily, though he felt the pull of unease. He had entered unknown territory, yet his determination remained. From the shadows, illusions formed. Giant creatures emerged with multiple limbs and glowing eyes that seemed to pierce the soul. Their roars echoed through the hall, though Jack knew they were not real. They were a test. Still, instinct urged him to step back to avoid danger. But Jack remembered one truth he had learned on Earth. Courage was standing firm even when fear told you to run. He stepped forward, slowly, each movement deliberate. He focused on his breathing, keeping it calm and steady, refusing to let the illusions intimidate him. The creatures lunged, vanished, and reformed, trying to provoke panic, but Jack's mind remained clear. He spoke softly to himself. words of reassurance and determination, reminding himself that fear was temporary, but courage could define a lifetime. The queen watched from her throne, her eyes narrowing in curiosity and surprise. This human had faced what would make many Zorathians falter. She had created these illusions to test the mind, yet Jack did not flinch. His calmness, his steadiness seemed to defy the very nature of her challenge. Outside the main hall, the remaining guards shifted nervously. Some had never seen illusions like these, and they feared for the human's life. Others were confused. Why did the human stand firm when any Zorathian would have panicked? The answers were simple: determination, courage, and belief in a purpose beyond fear. Jack moved closer to the center of the hall, where the illusions coalesced into a large figure, a towering Zorathian beast with eyes like molten fire. Its roar shook the floor, and the air seemed to vibrate with menace. Jack froze for a moment, feeling the weight of the challenge. He could see no path forward that did not involve risk. But retreat was not an option. He had entered this palace with a clear mission: to show that humans could be honest and brave. He stepped toward the creature, raising his voice, not in defiance, but in calm acknowledgement. "I am not afraid," he said clearly, though the sound of his own voice seemed almost small against the illusions around him. "I am here to learn, to understand, and to show that peace can exist between our worlds." The illusions paused, as if reacting to his words. The queen's eyes widened slightly. She had created these challenges to measure courage, and yet this human did something unexpected. He did not fight the illusion with strength or weapons, but with steadfast presence and truth. His resolve was stronger than any illusion she could conjure. The large creature moved closer, its eyes fixed on Jack. He remained still, refusing to let panic take control. The ground seemed to tremble beneath his feet, yet he did not step back. Step by step he approached the creature, his calm energy creating a strange effect. The shadows wavered, softened, and slowly dissolved. The queen leaned forward on her throne. She had witnessed many tests of bravery, but none had unfolded like this. The human did not rely on strength, skill, or aggression. He relied on something deeper: the courage to face fear with truth and calm. When the final illusion vanished, Jack stood alone in the middle of the hall. The silence was almost overwhelming, yet it was different now. It was not tense or fearful, it carried a sense of awe. The remaining guards, who had watched from the edges, were speechless. They had expected the human to falter, to break, to beg for mercy. Instead, he had faced the queen's trial and emerged steadfast. The queen rose slowly, her 6 eyes focused intently on Jack. She took a step forward, moving closer to him than any outsider had ever dared to approach. "You have shown courage beyond what I expected," she said softly, her voice carrying a new tone of respect. "Many Zorathians would have fled, many would have failed, yet you stood calm and true in the face of fear." Jack bowed his head slightly, a gesture of respect. "Thank you," he said. "I do not seek to prove myself to you for personal gain. I only wish to show that humans can be trusted, that we come in peace, and that courage is more than strength. It is the choice to do what is right." The queen paused, then nodded slowly. Few have ever spoken with such honesty. Few have ever faced a trial without relying on fear or force. "You are different, human. You are not like the others who have come before you." Jack felt a small relief. The trial had tested him, but he had passed. Not by defeating creatures or illusions, but by staying true to himself and his purpose. He had shown that courage could exist without violence, that determination could be stronger than fear, and that one individual could make a difference even in the presence of immense power. The palace remained quiet as the queen spoke again. "The guards who fled, they will return. They will see what you have done. They will understand that courage does not always look the way we expect. And you have my attention, human. We will speak further, and your actions today will be remembered." Jack nodded, keeping his composure. Inside, he felt a mix of relief and anticipation. He had survived the queen's test, but he knew this was only the beginning. True understanding between humans and Zorathians would require patience, dialogue, and continued courage. Yet he was ready for whatever came next. Outside the chamber, the guards whispered among themselves. Some were inspired, some were confused, but all had witnessed something remarkable. One human, alone and unarmed, had faced the illusions of their queen and stood firm. That courage had changed the atmosphere of the palace, and it had planted the first seed of respect between two worlds. As Jack took a deep breath and prepared to speak with the Queen further, he realized something important. Courage was not about winning battles or defeating enemies. Courage was about standing for truth, facing fear without flinching, and showing that one person, even far from home, could make a difference. And for the first time, Jack felt that he was not just a visitor in an alien world. He was a bridge between two civilizations, and his actions could shape the future for generations to come. The palace halls were quieter now than they had ever been. The illusions had vanished, leaving only the soft hum of the Zarathian palace's energy. Jack stood in the center of the throne room, facing the alien queen with calm determination. Though he had passed the first challenge, he sensed the atmosphere was still heavy with tension. The queen had not yet revealed her full reaction, and Jack knew that earning trust here would take more than courage. It would take patience, clarity, and the willingness to stand firm under scrutiny. At the edges of the hall, the guards shifted uneasily. Many had fled during the test, leaving the chamber in a mix of awe and fear. The few who remained watched Jack silently, whispering amongst themselves. "How can he remain calm?" one guard murmured. "He is only human, yet he does not tremble before the queen." Another guard shook her head. "He is not like the others. We are trained to face danger, but his presence, it changes everything. It makes me question our duty, our orders." The guards' unease grew. They had been trained to follow protocol strictly, yet no protocol accounted for a human who faced the queen without fear, who remained honest and composed in the most unusual circumstances. One by one, several of the remaining guards left through hidden corridors, unable to reconcile the human's courage with their own sense of duty. The queen observed everything carefully. Her multiple eyes, each gleaming with intelligence and centuries of experience, focused on Jack. She had ruled Zorath for decades, and she had encountered countless challengers, diplomats, and envoys. Many had tried to impress her with force, strategy, or clever words, but none had achieved what Jack had. He had stood alone, steady and unarmed, in the face of illusions designed to break even the most disciplined minds. "Tell me, human," she said, her voice calm but firm, "why do you risk so much to come here alone? You could have stayed in your world, safe and far from danger. Why place yourself in a position where the consequences could be fatal?" Jack met her gaze evenly. "I come because I believe that understanding is stronger than fear," he said simply. "I do not wish to fight. I do not wish to steal or deceive. I wish to build trust, even if it starts with only one step. I know it may not be easy, and I know it may not be accepted by all, but I cannot ignore the opportunity to do what is right." The queen paused. She was intrigued. She had expected humans to be reckless, arrogant, or self-serving. This one human had none of those traits. He did not brag, he did not demand, and he did not attempt to manipulate. Instead, he displayed qualities that few Zorathians could claim: honesty, resolve, and a steady courage that refused to bow to fear. The hall was silent except for the subtle hum of the palace. Jack could feel the weight of the queen's attention, and he also sensed the eyes of the guards who had not fled. Their unease was palpable. They had been trained to react, to protect, and to follow strict rules. Yet this human's behavior challenged everything they had learned. Suddenly, one of the guards, a young Zorathian named Kael, stepped forward hesitantly. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "Perhaps we misjudged him. Perhaps courage is not measured the way we thought." The queen did not respond immediately. Her eyes remained on Jack, analyzing every subtle movement. She was aware that Kael's words reflected a shift among the remaining guards. The human's presence, his calm bravery, had created doubt and reflection where once there was only rigid discipline. Jack, noticing the young guard, spoke gently. "I am not here to change anyone by force," he said. "I only hope that my actions show that courage and truth can matter more than fear. Each of us has a choice, whether to stand firm, whether to listen, whether to act with integrity. I have made my choice. Others may make theirs." The queen studied him closely. She had designed trials to measure strength, intelligence, and strategy. But courage, in its purest form, had always been the most elusive quality. Here was a human who possessed it naturally, without display or pretension. That realization shifted something deep within her. Meanwhile, the guards who had fled earlier began to return, cautiously moving through the hidden corridors back into the throne room. They had seen what happened during the illusions, and though fear still lingered, they were compelled by curiosity. The human had faced a trial none had imagined surviving. He had remained calm, honest, and steadfast, qualities that inspired both respect and hesitation. Jack noticed their return but did not break his stance. He continued to address the Queen, speaking calmly with humility and clarity. "I do not ask for reward or praise," he said. "I only seek understanding. I only seek a chance for humans and Zerathians to coexist peacefully. That is my goal, and that is why I stand here, even when it is difficult or uncertain." The Queen's expression softened. She had expected compliance, fear, or flattery. Instead, she found a human who relied on integrity and presence. It was a rare combination, and it had already affected her court. The guards who remained were listening, learning that courage did not always take the form of strength or force. Kale stepped forward again, now with more confidence. "Your Majesty," he said, "this human has proven something remarkable. He faces you alone, without fear, without deception. Perhaps we should consider what he offers beyond these trials." The Queen nodded slowly. Her gaze never left Jack. "Indeed," she said, "you have shown courage, honesty, and respect. But words alone are not enough. Actions, as you have already begun to demonstrate, carry the true measure of your character." Jack's heart remained steady, though he felt a small surge of relief. He had faced the illusions, remained calm, and observed the reactions of both the Queen and her guards. Now the challenge was not just surviving tests, it was building trust step by step, word by word, action by action. The Queen gestured for Jack to follow her. He moved carefully, respecting the protocols of the palace while maintaining his composure. As he walked, the remaining guards watched silently. Some were inspired, others still unsure, but all recognized that something extraordinary had occurred. One human alone had stood firm in the presence of the alien Queen, and that act alone had shifted the balance of respect, attention, and possibility in the palace. The Queen stopped at a smaller chamber adjacent to her throne room. She turned to Jack, her voice softer now. "You have survived the illusions and the trials of presence. You have not faltered even as others fled or doubted. That is the first step toward understanding, but more will be required. Courage must be paired with wisdom, patience, and trust. Are you prepared to continue?" Jack nodded firmly. "I am," he said. "I will do whatever it takes to show that humans can act with integrity, that we can seek peace, and that courage can exist even in the most unexpected places." The Queen's eyes gleamed with approval. She had expected a simple challenge, but she found herself facing a human whose courage was unlike anything she had imagined. She had seen illusions fail, tests fail, and guards falter, but not this. This human had faced fear, uncertainty, and scrutiny without wavering, and that alone had earned her respect. Outside the chamber, whispers spread among the returning guards. "He is not like us," one murmured. "He does not fear. He does not lie, and yet, he is human," another added quietly. "Perhaps we have judged too harshly. Perhaps courage comes in many forms, and perhaps this human has shown us a path we have never seen." Jack took a moment to breathe. The trial had been challenging, the illusions unnerving, and the eyes of the Queen intense, but he had succeeded in a way he had never expected. He had not fought with weapons, skill, or cunning. He had fought with presence, honesty, and unwavering courage, and in doing so, he had earned a place in the Queen's attention, a chance to shape the future of two worlds. As the chamber doors closed behind them, Jack knew that the path ahead would require more courage, more patience, and more wisdom, but he was ready. For the first time, he understood that standing firm in the face of fear, with truth as your guide, could change even the most powerful of beings, and perhaps even the course of history itself. The alien Queen led Jack through the quiet corridors of her palace. The hall shimmered with light, reflecting the soft glow from crystal walls. For centuries, these halls had echoed with the whispers of guards, advisors, and envoys, but today they carried a different energy, an energy of curiosity, of awe, and of respect. Jack's calm courage had shifted the atmosphere. Even the palace itself seemed aware of his presence. The remaining guards followed at a distance, uncertain yet captivated. Their training had prepared them for threats, for diplomacy, for combat, but nothing had prepared them for a human who could stand firm before the Queen without weapons or fear. Many glanced at one another, questioning the lessons of their training. Could courage truly look like this? Could honesty and composure outweigh skill and strategy? The queen stopped in a wide chamber adorned with floating crystals that hummed softly. She turned to Jack, her eyes, 6 of them, focused intently on him. She had observed his courage, his steadiness, and his truthfulness. These were qualities rare in any being, let alone one from another world. "You have shown remarkable strength," she said, her voice calm but full of authority. "Not the strength of weapons, not the strength of numbers, but the strength of presence, honesty, and determination. Few have ever earned my attention in such a manner." Jack bowed slightly, a gesture of respect. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I did not come here seeking praise. I came to show that humans can act with integrity, that we can be trusted, and that courage is not measured by fear alone, but by the choice to face it." The queen studied him for a long moment. She could feel the difference between instinctive fear and conscious bravery. She had created illusions, tests, and challenges, yet they had been designed to measure reactions, not the deeper quality that Jack had displayed. She realized that courage was not about defeating a foe or surviving a trap. It was about standing firm even when all seemed uncertain, and doing so with truth and respect. She gestured for Jack to follow her to a smaller platform in the chamber. Floating screens of light appeared, displaying the history of the Zorathians, their victories, their battles, and their centuries of rule. Jack observed quietly, taking in the vast differences between his world and this one. He did not speak immediately. He had learned that patience often spoke louder than words. The queen spoke again, her voice thoughtful. "For many years, my people have faced challenges, threats, and attempts at diplomacy. We have seen outsiders, envoys, and even warriors, yet none have approached with the honesty and courage that you show. You do not seek to dominate, deceive, or frighten. You simply stand calm and true." Jack nodded. "That is all I can offer, Your Majesty. My people seek understanding, not conquest. We come to learn, to share, and to build trust. I cannot change the past, and I cannot control how others react, but I can act with integrity and courage." The queen leaned forward, intrigued by his simplicity and clarity. "You speak as one who knows the value of patience and truth. Your actions have already influenced my guards and advisors. They are questioning their own understanding of courage, their own assumptions about humans, and their own sense of duty." Jack's eyes scanned the room subtly. The guards at the edges of the chamber, who had returned after fleeing earlier, were watching him carefully. Some appeared inspired, others hesitant, but all were silent, waiting to see what would happen next. The human who had faced the illusions now had the attention of the entire chamber. "You have faced my test," the queen continued. "You have seen the illusions, the creatures, and the shadows that can unsettle even the bravest Zorathians. Yet you did not falter. You did not fight with weapons or rely on trickery. You relied on your presence, your honesty, and your determination. That is a lesson few beings ever learn." Jack bowed again. "I am grateful for your recognition, Your Majesty. I hope that my actions can demonstrate that courage, honesty, and patience can build bridges between worlds, even when trust is scarce." The queen paused. She considered the long history of her rule, the countless beings who had sought favor, the challenges she had created to test loyalty and courage. Few had succeeded. Fewer still had succeeded without arrogance or deceit. Jack had done so simply by standing firm, facing fear, and speaking the truth. "You have changed the perspective of this chamber," she said finally. "The guards who fled, the advisors who doubted, they now see what courage can truly mean. Your presence has altered their understanding and perhaps even their future actions." Jack felt a small surge of pride, tempered with humility. He had never intended to change perceptions so dramatically. He had only intended to stand firm, to act with honesty, and to represent the values of his people. Yet the impact was undeniable. The queen motioned for the guards to approach. Slowly, one by one, they stepped forward, still cautious but visibly more respectful. Kale, the young guard who had spoken earlier, came first. "Your Majesty," he said, bowing slightly, "I have never seen courage like this. Perhaps we can learn from him, even if he is from another world." The queen nodded. "Indeed, Kale, observe carefully. Courage is not always the loudest roar or the sharpest weapon. Sometimes it is stillness, truth, and integrity. That is what this human has shown." The other guards followed Kale's example, bowing slightly to Jack. Some whispered among themselves, questioning their own previous judgments and assumptions. They had witnessed a human display qualities that transcended training, fear, and protocol. Jack remained composed, accepting their acknowledgement without pride. He understood that this was part of building trust. small, deliberate actions that showed respect and integrity. The Queen stepped closer to Jack. "I have one more matter before we move forward," she said. "Your courage is clear, your honesty evident, and your presence inspiring. But understanding requires more than one demonstration. Will you continue to act with integrity, patience, and courage, even as the challenges grow?" Jack met her gaze steadily. "I will, Your Majesty. I understand that trust is earned over time, and I am willing to prove myself through action, not just words." A subtle smile crossed the Queen's face. It was rare for her to show such an expression in public, yet here, in the quiet chamber, she allowed herself a moment of acknowledgement. She had seen many beings test their limits, but none had shown courage, honesty, and patience combined in the way this human had. The chamber grew quiet. Even the floating crystals seemed to hum softly, reflecting the change in energy. Jack had not just passed a test. He had influenced the Queen, her guards, and the energy of the palace itself. One human, by standing firm and true, had begun to reshape perceptions and expectations. "You may rest for now," the Queen said finally. "But know this, your actions will continue to be observed. Your courage has earned attention, but your journey has only begun. The future will require patience, integrity, and continued bravery. Are you prepared?" Jack nodded. "I am ready, Your Majesty. I will face whatever comes next with truth and courage." The Queen's eyes gleamed with approval. She had witnessed an extraordinary display of bravery, one that challenged her expectations and the beliefs of her people. Jack had stood firm when others fled, had faced fear without weapons, and had demonstrated qualities that even the most disciplined Zorathians struggled to achieve. Outside the chamber, the guards whispered among themselves. "He is not like us," one murmured. "He faces the Queen without fear, without deception, and yet he commands respect," another added. "Perhaps courage is not just skill or training. Perhaps it is something deeper, something we have forgotten." Jack took a deep breath. The trial had been challenging, but he had passed not through force, but through courage, honesty, and composure. The Queen's recognition was a small victory, but he knew the path ahead would demand more patience, more wisdom, and more steady courage. As the chamber doors closed behind them, Jack realized that his journey was far from over. Yet he felt a deep sense of purpose. He had earned the Queen's respect, influenced the guards, and demonstrated that one human could stand firm in the face of fear. And that realization gave him strength for the challenges yet to come. The throne room felt different that day. Where once it had been filled with tension, uncertainty, and the quiet hum of protocol, it now carried a sense of respect and possibility. Jack stood near the center of the chamber, his posture calm and his eyes steady. The alien Queen observed him closely, her 6 eyes gleaming with curiosity and admiration. For the first time, she felt that a human could be more than an outsider or a potential threat. This one human, through courage, honesty, and determination, had shown her the possibility of understanding between worlds. The guards, who had returned fully now, moved carefully, their expressions a mixture of awe and newfound respect. They whispered among themselves, realizing that the human's presence had changed the palace. Courage, they understood now, did not always roar. Sometimes it was quiet, steady, and unwavering. The Queen stepped down from her elevated throne, moving closer to Jack. Her movement was fluid, graceful, and deliberate. "You have shown courage that surpasses many who have stood before me," she said softly. "You have not relied on weapons, illusions, or intimidation. Instead, you have relied on honesty, patience, and integrity." "That is remarkable," Jack bowed slightly. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I do not seek recognition. I only wish to show that humans can act with respect, understanding, and courage, even in the face of uncertainty." The Queen studied him silently for a long moment. She could see the truth in his words and the steadiness in his actions. She had tested him, observed him, and allowed her illusions to challenge him, yet through every moment he had remained firm, calm, and genuine. That alone was enough to earn her attention and respect. "You have earned more than attention," she said finally. "You have earned the possibility of partnership. My people and yours have been separated by distance, by history, and by misunderstanding. Perhaps your courage can be the bridge that begins a new chapter for both our worlds." Jack felt a quiet sense of hope. He had come to this planet not seeking power or advantage, but understanding. Now it seemed that his simple willingness to stand firm, to speak truthfully, and to face fear without faltering, had opened a door he had never imagined. The Queen gestured to the guards. "Bring forth the council," she commanded. Within moments, advisors, scholars, and strategists entered the chamber, their expressions attentive. They had witnessed Jack's courage and the calm manner in which he faced challenges, and they now regarded him with cautious interest. One of the senior council members stepped forward. "Your Majesty," he said, "we have never seen such bravery from an outsider. This human faced your trials without fear, without deception, and without hesitation. His courage is undeniable." The Queen nodded. "Indeed, he has shown that actions, not weapons or status, define courage. He has also demonstrated honesty, respect, and patience, qualities we value greatly." Jack spoke carefully, addressing the entire council. "I understand that I am an outsider," he said. "I know your history and your traditions may differ from ours, but I hope that my actions have shown that humans can be trusted, and that courage and honesty are values we share. I come with no desire to dominate, only to build understanding and cooperation." A young council member, curious and cautious, asked, "And what makes you certain that humans can live in peace with Zorathians?" "Our worlds have been distant and our customs are different." Jack smiled faintly. "Peace is not automatic. It requires patience, understanding, and courage. I cannot promise that everything will be easy, but I can promise that I will act with integrity, that I will listen, and that I will work to build trust. Courage is not just about facing danger, it is about choosing to do what is right even when it is difficult. That is my commitment." The Queen observed the council members closely. She had expected hesitation, doubt, and perhaps resistance, but instead she saw a spark of curiosity, a willingness to reconsider old assumptions. The human had not only stood firm before her, but he had also begun to influence her advisors and guards through his example. "Very well," she said at last, her voice carrying authority and warmth. "You shall remain in my palace as a representative of your people. We will discuss ways to learn from one another, share knowledge, and explore the possibility of cooperation. Your courage has opened this door, human. But the journey ahead will require continued honesty, patience, and determination." Jack bowed once more, feeling the weight of the moment. This was more than he had hoped for. Not only had he survived the trials, but he had also begun the first steps toward a historic alliance between Earth and Zorath. Every word, every step, and every moment of courage had led to this opportunity. Over the following hours, Jack engaged with the Queen and her council. They spoke of history, customs, and the differences between their worlds. Jack listened carefully, asking questions and seeking to understand. He shared knowledge of Earth, of human ways, and of the values that guided his people. Each conversation built trust. Each answer deepened mutual respect, and each moment of honesty strengthened the bridge between two civilizations. The guards, once fearful, began to show their own respect. They observed how Jack treated the Queen and her advisors, with patience, humility, and courage. Some approached him cautiously, asking questions, seeking advice, and trying to understand the human who had faced their Queen without flinching. Jack answered every inquiry respectfully, showing that courage could be paired with kindness and patience. By the end of the day, the palace had shifted. The Queen sat back on her throne, observing Jack as he prepared to rest. "You have done more than I expected," she said quietly. "You have shown courage that cannot be taught, honesty that cannot be feigned, and respect that cannot be demanded. You have begun something extraordinary, human. Do you understand the significance of what you have done?" Jack nodded. "I understand, Your Majesty. I know the road ahead will not be easy, but I am committed to standing firm, speaking truthfully, and acting with integrity. I hope that one day humans and Zorathians can trust each other fully, and that our worlds can work together for a better future." The Queen's expression softened. She had faced many challenges, but she had never witnessed such quiet yet unwavering courage. For centuries, her palace had been a place of order, discipline, and control. Today, it had become a place where understanding, respect, and the potential for cooperation had begun to flourish, all because one human had stood firm, calm, and true. As Jack looked around the chamber, he felt a deep sense of purpose. He had not only survived the trials, but had also begun the first steps toward building a lasting alliance. The Queen's respect, the guards' admiration, and the Council's cautious acceptance were the foundation of something new, a partnership that could change the future of both worlds. The Queen spoke once more. her voice carrying warmth and authority. Rest now, human. Tomorrow we begin the work of understanding, of learning, and of building a bridge between our peoples. You have proven your courage. Now let us see what we can accomplish together. Jack bowed deeply, grateful for the opportunity and aware of the responsibility. He had faced fear, uncertainty, and the unknown, and he had done so with honesty and courage. The palace, the queen, and the entire court had witnessed it. And now the path forward was clear, a future of cooperation, respect, and shared courage between humans and Zorathians. As the chamber settled into quiet once more, Jack looked toward the horizon. Outside the palace, the suns of Zorath shone softly, casting golden light across the alien city. For the first time, he felt the weight of hope, the possibility of friendship between worlds, and the knowledge that one individual's courage could create change far beyond his imagination. The queen watched him silently, knowing that the human who had stood firm before her throne would be remembered, not for force, not for skill, but for courage, honesty, and the unwavering choice to do what was right. In that moment, history began to shift. Two worlds, separated by distance and uncertainty, had found their first connection, and it had been forged by the steadfast courage of a single human standing firm before an alien queen.